Welcome back to The Truth is Viral. My name is Bob Powell, and I'm coming to you today from the top of Manning Hill. This is where everybody comes to go sledding.
Damn!
Thought I'd come up here and get look at the colors, but once again I'm too late. But there is going to be a partial solar eclipse today, so I'll see if I can catch that while I'm up here. But anyway, today's episode we're going to the Pete Santilli Show. He had me on as a talking head the other day, and we opined on Executive Order 13603 and 13295 and how they're being used to press doctors into service to combat the Ebola crisis. That's right, doctors in Texas are being forced right now to labor for the federal government combating the Ebola crisis. Executive Order 13603 specifically says that persons of outstanding experience and ability can be forced to labor without compensation. Folks, there's only one word in the English language for forced labor without compensation, and that word is slavery. You can click this link right here to find out all you need to know about Executive Order 13603. Now, Pete and I also talk about the latest Defense Intelligence Estimate. It totally ignores the threat of Islamic terrorism, even though in the last couple of days alone we've seen 2 attacks in Canada and multiple attacks in the United States over the last few years since Obama's been president. Nidal Hassan, a couple of Coptic Christians were beheaded in New Jersey. You know, folks, it's just all over the place. Now, ISIS terrorists are in the United States right now. They're getting ready to strike soft targets like schools and malls and train stations, bus stations, hospitals, and it's going to be a nightmare. So we talk about that too, because, you know, like I said, they just totally ignore it. And they say that Patriots are the threat. They say that peaceful rancher Cliven Bundy is a greater threat to the United States than Islamic terrorists. That's right. Even though that entire event was absolutely peaceful. Not a single shot was fired, nobody was hurt, not so much as a stubbed toe was reported. They're making us out to be the bad guys. And President Obama is sending letters to the mosque of the guy that beheaded the woman in Moore, Oklahoma, and praising them for the great things that they're doing for the community. My God, the hypocrisy. So we tear into that. And finally, we've got a message to federal law enforcement agencies that they need to listen to. Need to get their heads out of their butts and figure out which side that they're on. This is a very exciting and informative episode of The Truth is Viral. Once again, I've included clickable links throughout the episode, so if you'd like to know more about a subject, you can always click a link like this one right here, and you'll find out more about it. I've covered a lot of subjects, got 285 episodes under my belt so far. And thanks to you, 27,000 subscribers and almost 4 million views. 2.5 million of those in the last 6 months. Thank you so much for making The Truth is Viral the success that it is. Now let's get busy and win and save lives and win souls for Jesus Christ. Watch this show.
Places you don't talk about at parties. You want me on that wall. You need me on that wall.
Keep this frequency clear.
And now it's conspiracy. See, they've made that something that should not be even entertained for a minute, that powerful people might get together and have a plan. Doesn't happen. You're a kook. You're a conspiracy buff.
You're watching The Truth is Viral, the only news program on the internet trusted to deliver the truth since 2008. And now, here's your host, Mr. Bobby Powell.
Okay, so
This isn't a transition, it's a continuation of our discussion here with somebody who I know will be able to respond to this very articulately and very patriotically and very directly. All right. We brought on Bobby Powell, as we will on a regular basis. Love Bobby Powell. All of our listeners love Bobby Powell. He's a fellow Marine, and we're going to be talking about some serious stuff that's happening with our system. I welcome him back to the Pete Santilli Show. Bobby, guess what? I don't know if you heard the past hour and what we're talking about.
Actually, I didn't. But,
okay. You'll be able to pick up.
I was just coming back from the hospital. It seems like we're doing that a lot these days. But yeah, tell me, get me up to speed. What's going on?
Well, here's the deal. ISIS, at least on the internet troll side, now are beginning to attack our service members. There was a report that was put out on Fox News this morning. Okay, that here's how it was put: an Air Force father and son are targeted online by ISIS followers, says a source. Okay, and I played actually a response by a Marine. He was on Facebook, and he's an Afghanistan war veteran. And he said, "Here's my message to ISIS: you want to mess with us? You know, bring it. You're going to be. You think you can mess around with taking land in the Middle East? You bring the fight here to the United States of America, and you're going to be up against a fearsome force."
Hello everybody, Frankie Coleman here. I want to make a video right now that is very straightforward and to the point. And this is a different video compared to most videos I've made in the past. So excuse me. This video is a message. That's what makes this video different. It's a message. And this is a message to Islamic terrorists worldwide, especially ISIS. Lately, I quote ISIS, they said they're going to spill the blood of Americans and Americans are no longer safe and they're going to bring the fight here. Okay. Here's my message to ISIS, and I'm going to try to make as much sense as I possibly can. ISIS, Islamic terrorists, you are no longer fighting the governments of the world. Now you have a bigger problem now. You're now fighting the people of the world. If you bring the fight here to America like you're threatening and saying, it's going to be a very different fight for you. It's not going to be the same fight you fought against us in Iraq and Afghanistan. You cowardly terrorists fought against us like the rats you are, and you knew damn well that American forces follow rules of engagement and whatnot, you know. It makes me sick when I was a Marine over in Afghanistan in Marja. Every time we caught a Taliban, we had to give him a halal MRE. And an MRE is a meal ready to eat. A halal MRE. And a bottle of water. And we had to be extra nice to you and yada yada. You know, as Marines, we follow orders and, you know, we took an oath and, you know, we listened to our leaders. But personally, if I had it my way, every Taliban we had in custody, I would have gave you a taste of your own medicine. And what I mean by that, I would have cut your throat. And that's what's going to happen if you come here to America. If you bring the fight here to America, not only are you going to be fighting law enforcement, the military, you know, that's a gimme. You know you're going to be going up against, you know, those two forces, police and the military. But your biggest problem, the hardest fight you will encounter, are guys like me. Disgruntled veterans, combat veterans, guys that hold a grudge in their heart against Islamic terrorists, who would love nothing more than to dig a blade deep into one of your throats. And there's thousands of us here back home in America, and you're going to fucking threaten us? our people, you're in a world of shit. You're in a world of shit. You know, we are America. We are not England. We are not France. We are not Germany. You're not going to riot in our streets. You're not going to push us around like you do to the cowardly Europeans. We are Americans. If you come here, you will be slaughtered. We won't fight you conventionally like we did in your lands. We will slaughter you. Bring it. And that's my message to all Islamic terrorists. You're no longer fighting the governments of the world. You're fighting the people of the world. And me personally, I don't like what you're doing to my fellow Christian people in your countries. You're slaughtering them. That's another grudge I hold against you. Keep threatening Americans. Keep threatening Americans. You come here, you're fighting the people. Plain and simple. And it's not going to be pretty for you. You're going to lose.
So what do we say? What do you say as a Marine to those members of ISIS that dare even troll our military personnel? What do you say to them that are threatening to come here and track down these Air Force families?
What do I say to ISIS?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Have you guys lost your minds?
Mm-hmm.
Just because our commander-in-chief is a limp-wristed coward does not translate into the American patriots being the same way. That guy's not even from this country. He has no idea what it's like to be an American. You know, there was a very good reason why the Japanese didn't invade this country during World War II, because we scared the piss out of them.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask you this. Do you think we still have that same ferocity here as an American population as we did back then? You think we still do? You think they still have something to fear as far as Americans being, you know, behind every blade of grass with a gun?
You know, 10 years ago, I would have said no. And the reason is because people were in a coma. They were absolutely dependent on the mainstream media to feed them their daily dose of pablum, and they didn't care. You know, as long as they had their, you know, Sony Walkmans and DVD players and, you know, all this stuff, you know, evolves into the new iPhone 6. You just can't live without it, even though it bends like a Pop-Tart. Okay. But, you know, everybody was calm and they were complacent. But after September 11th, we had two things. We were awakened to the threat of Islamic terrorism against us, and the emergence of the internet gave people the ability to find news on their own that hasn't been sanitized by American media. And Pete, that's how I woke up, because I voted for President Bush. I was all for the first Gulf War. I was all for the second Gulf War. I voted for President Bush twice. Mm-hmm. That's how stupid I was. But, you know, I woke up finally when these weapons of mass destruction that they said were the reason for our entry into Iraq, when those didn't appear, I knew that we'd been lied to. Mm-hmm. And that's when I woke up and started digging in deeper. And brother, the things that I found out in the last 10 years will curl your toes.
Now, you know, the discussion we've been having is the caution that we need to proceed. Yes, we have an adversary right now that, however it was energized, okay, is very, very real. We could say that it was pre-manufactured. We could say that John McCain and Lindsey Graham supplied it with arms and allowed it to flourish in Syria. That Hillary Clinton supplied 600 tons of man pads to the Syrian al-Qaeda. But the bottom line is, we now have a group of people that have signed on to this thing, ISIS, okay, who literally want to come here and kill us. But we have to balance it out between not falling into the left-right paradigm, while at the same time recognizing that we have a bunch of people, human beings on the other side, that actually want to come here and kill us. How do we balance all of that out and still have that discussion that it's a left-right paradigm that's false, fabricated, while at the same time we have people that literally want to jump on Facebook and issue death threats to our service members?
Okay. Well, I look at it this way. It's very simple. And you hit the nail right on the head. It does not matter where ISIS came from. It does not matter that, as you accurately described, Lindsey Graham and John McCain and Hillary Clinton and yes, Barack Obama have been supporting these people. It doesn't matter.
And George Bush,
yeah, and George Bush too. And don't forget our so-called allies in the Middle East, like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the Emirates, and especially Turkey. They have been pouring dollars, I mean tens of millions of dollars into ISIS in order to unseat Bashar al-Assad. And, you know, we'll talk about Bashar al-Assad another time. I really don't think he was that bad a guy. People did not start dying in Syria until this fake revolution began.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he was a dictator, but Pete, you and I both know, and anybody else that has a brain and can think, these people in the Middle East, they have every human right that we have. But what they do not have is a background in democracy. Mm-hmm. They have no idea what to do with it. It's like giving a 6-year-old child a computer and say, "Here, program this." Mm-hmm. They have absolutely no idea what democratic values are. They have no idea what democratic principles are. They don't know how to vote. They're so corrupt. People in the Middle East are at a cultural point right now where they need a king, a strong man, or a dictator to keep them in line. Bashar al-Assad, Muammar Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein. None of these guys were nice guys. But when they were in power, they kept their thumb, an iron thumb, on these radical Islamists. They would put them in jail. They would kill them. They wouldn't mess around with them and give them tender love and support like Barack Obama does. They just kill them. And that's the only way that you can deal with these people, because they are absolutely fanatical in every sense of the word. They think that they are on this planet doing God's will.
You know what? That's an interesting point that you bring up, because when it all comes down to left-right paradigm, you know, us versus them, you know, U.S. versus the radical Islamists. When it all comes right down to it, who could possibly win that battle? You would have to say that the people, individuals, human beings that are fighting for their God-given rights, their freedom and their liberty, is something that Americans have an advantage, because what the other side is ultimately fighting for, in the end, is even greater oppression. Right? It's fighting for Sharia law, for instance. Right?
Well, yeah. And you say the right-left paradigm, there is no right or left. It's all one big cluster.
Uh-huh.
They're all in it. They've all got their individual little agendas, right? The Saudis want to defeat Assad. Barack Obama wants to get Islamists into Syria so that he can complete his surrounding of Israel with hostile Islamist regimes. That's what the entire Arab Spring was all about. He started in Tunisia, went to Egypt, then to Libya, and then to Syria. He wants to install Muslim Brotherhood regimes, just like he's got in the White House. About 12 of his advisors in the White House, even some that work for the Department of Homeland Security, belong to the Muslim Brotherhood. You know, al-Qaeda is the military wing of the Muslim Brotherhood. These two organizations cannot be divorced from one another. Ayman al-Zawahiri, who is technically the #1 man in al-Qaeda right now, joined the Muslim Brotherhood when he was just a wee little tyke of 14 years old. Okay, so this is Obama's plan. He's got Valerie Jarrett in here too, because what Valerie Jarrett's job is to bring the Iranians, because, you know, Valerie Jarrett is a dual Iranian-American citizen. Her job is to bring the Iranians, the Shia, into some type of confederation with the Sunni Islamists of ISIS And that, my friend, is when you're going to see the battle of Gog Magog take place. When you have all of these Islamist armies surrounding Israel, that's when it's all going to go down. And I've been telling my viewers for a long time that they ask me, when do we, pack up our bug out bag and get out? And the thing that I tell them is to watch for the Isaiah 17 prophecy, the burden of Damascus.
Push the pause button. We're going to take a short break. And listen, let's take it from there. Tell us about Isaiah 17 prophecy when we come back. And then we're going to transition to this important topic of Ebola, okay? And we're calling it Obola, okay?
Yes, sir.
Obola, and how the Obama administration is handling the Ebola crisis. Wait till you hear about it and what they have in store for you. All those executive orders, shoot, man, it looks like Ebola is going to his filing cabinet. This is how we're going to deal with the Ebola pandemic. And when you hear about it, you're going to be absolutely floored by it. Bobby and I, last night, actually, he was getting me up to speed on how impactful these executive orders are going to be, on how Ebola is going to lock down the country. You're going to be shocked when you hear what he has at his disposal. We'll be right back with Bobby Powell.
I'm Pete Santilli, and you're watching The Truth is Viral.
Do not click away. We'll be back with more in just a moment. Whether we like it or not, radical Islamists are bringing the fight to us right here in the United States. And it's obvious that the Obama administration isn't going to lift a finger to protect us. As Americans, we have the right and the duty to protect our friends and our family from Islamic terrorism. ISIS needs to understand that just because Barack Obama is a limp-wristed coward, that doesn't mean that the American patriot is. We don't negotiate with terrorists like Barack Obama does. We just kill them. Real Americans, the young, the old, men, women, even the Amish, stand ready to protect the American homeland from Islamic terrorism. And more, they're turning to the most terrifying force multiplier that the world has ever seen. It's called silver bullet gun oil. This is made from 13% pig fat, and it is guaranteed to send an Islamic terrorist straight to hell. In 1902, Black Jack Pershing, famous U.S. Army general, realized the effectiveness of this psychological weapon on Islamic terrorism. He rounded up 50 Islamic terrorists, and he tied 49 of them to stakes. And as they stood there awaiting their death, he brought in a few pigs and put them in slaughtered them in a pit in front of these hostages. Boy, they were terrified. And then they got shot, every single one of them. They were buried in the pit and covered with the pig's entrails. The 50th terrorist was let go so that he could go tell the rest of his buddies what he'd seen. And for the next 42 years, there was not a single incidence of Islamic terrorism anywhere in the world. That is how effective this weapon is. Since 2004, silver bullet gun oil has been used by members of the United States Marine Infantry, Marine Recon, U.S. Marine Scout Snipers, Navy SEALs, regular Army, Army Rangers, Green Berets, Reserve, and National Guard units deployed or being deployed to the Middle East theater of operations. Silver bullet gun oil is used by M1 Abrams tank platoons. Apache and Cobra gunships use silver bullet in their miniguns. Many of Allah's holy warriors have been greatly disappointed upon realizing that they did not pass go and they did not collect 72 virgins. A number of air marshals use silver bullet gun oil in their in-flight weaponry. It's been distributed to members of police tactical teams throughout the United States from coast to coast, including members of my local law enforcement community. Oh yeah, buddy. I count on them to protect me from these Islamic terrorists. I can't keep my head on a swivel 24 hours a day. So, yeah, they're the first ones that I gave a bottle of silver bullet gun oil to. The psychological impact of silver bullet gun oil might very well prevent many attacks on American citizens in the U.S. Islamic terrorists don't care about dying, folks. In fact, they welcome the idea. So we have to take that incentive away from them by guaranteeing them an afterlife in hell. Silver bullet gun oil is an effective psychological weapon against Islamic terrorism in the United States. In order to get your bottle, just click the link below in the video description or go to silverbulletgunoil.net and enter the code TTIV, and you'll get some goodies. Speaking of goodies, I'm going to be giving away a goodie bag with Silver Bullet gun oil and a Truth is Viral t-shirt. The first goodie bag is going to go to the person that uploads the funniest video telling me why you want Silver Bullet gun oil for your personal weapon. So, keep the video under a minute, and I really can't wait to see what you guys come up with. Please bring the funny. There's no reason why we can't have some fun with this.
Okay, I'm with Bobby Powell. His Twitter account is The Truth is Viral, and his website that I'm putting up on the screen on YouTube Live is Bob Powell at Blogspot. I'm sorry, bobpowell.blogspot.net, and he's an investigative journalist. He's a friend of GMN. I've met him in person when I went out to Michigan for a protest out there. Had the pleasure of meeting him. He's a United States Marine, great investigative journalist, and I think he's got a pretty good handle on what this administration is doing and what we're leaning towards, and how this administration plans to just pretty much just lock us down with any excuse they can grab at. The one thing that we were talking about before we went to the break is how we're dealing with the Islamists. And everyone is worried about, when are the end times? When are they going to be here? It's coming. We can feel ourselves inching towards it. Isaiah 17, you say, is the prophecy that we need to look out for, correct?
Right. Isaiah 17 is the chapter is called The Burden of Damascus. And basically what it describes in the very first couple of verses is the destruction of Damascus by a nuclear explosion. Damascus is the oldest continuously inhabited city on the face of the planet. And according to the Bible, in the night there will be terror, and in the morning the city will be a smoking heap of ruin. Okay, and it's not just Damascus, it's the city of the plain, Aroer and Ephraim. Now, a lot of people don't recognize these names, but I've done the research. I've gone back into old maps and looked at to see what the cities, as we're calling them now, used to be called. The cities or the areas that are also going to be destroyed are the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. So when you see that happen, when you see Damascus go up in a blinding flash of light, that's when you need to get your bug out bag and get ready to go. But here in the United States, we're going to I think see a three-pronged attack. I've been saying for a long time that I didn't think that the powers that be, let's call them, were going to use a virus like Ebola, because viruses mutate. That's a very dangerous weapon of mass destruction. They may have an antibody or a serum that will protect them from the virus in its current form, but if it gets out in the wild and mutates, they won't necessarily have the protection against that form of the virus. But, here we are. Obama is just bringing everybody that gets Ebola into the country, every single one of them. Oh, and here's an interesting thing. It just an aside thought. Every person that has been given this new Ebola treatment, only the white ones have lived.
Oh, that is interesting.
That's just a little side thought. We'll see how this progresses as it goes further on. But he's going to hit us with Ebola. He's going to hit us with these terrorist attacks, and the terrorist attacks are going to be massive, Pete. They're going to be all over the country. Dr. Jim Garrow has talked about this, and they're going to, you remember John Muhammad, right? The Beltway sniper and his little butt buddy. Yeah. The two of them randomly shot innocent people like every 3 or 4 days for a couple of weeks, right? They shut down 3 entire states for 2 weeks.
2 guys. Yeah.
Two guys. Now, when this attack happens, when the terrorist cells that are already in place get their orders, they're going to be attacking trains, they're going to be attacking malls, buses, schools, basically any place that is undefended, what they call a soft target. And, this is where we need to be able to defend ourselves, because it is obvious to me and to you and to anybody else that's watching that not only are we not going to be protected against this disease by the federal government, they are actively bringing it into the United States.
They are.
People are swarming across the southern border, and they've got all kinds of diseases. Where do you think that this enterovirus 68 came from? That just popped up out of nowhere, didn't it?
Yeah,
right after all of these illegals got placed in every single state.
I mean, there's just every indication that they want this thing. I mean, even if you saw, okay, let's use two examples here. And here we are formally transitioning to Ebola, all right? And even considering it a false flag terrorist attack upon our country. Take a look at how they handled the biological conditions that existed with this guy Duncan in Texas. They sent a couple of black guys out there with a pressure washer, and they had no. I mean, you just about call for the spreading of the Ebola virus by the way they handled that situation. And this is the government that's supposed to come and save us, right?
Oh yeah, the ambulance that he was transported in. The drivers of that ambulance did not know that they were driving an infected ambulance for 48 hours. How many different crews used that ambulance? How many patients were transported in that ambulance where this guy Duncan was throwing up Ebola vomit all over the place?
Okay, Bobby, let's ask the serious question. Is it something that they're not concerned about, or something that they want to have happen? Because it can't be because of total and complete incompetence, right? Because you know what? If the government wants to come and get you and do so efficiently, you'll be SWAT teamed with military precision.
Yeah,
okay,
brother, nobody can be that incompetent.
Right.
And Obama does, no matter how many brown shirts he has at his disposal, there are 150 million patriotic gun-owning Americans in this country. There is no way that they can SWAT team all of us.
Right.
Okay, so they have to knock our numbers down first, and that's going to be partially done with the Ebola virus. That if they initiate martial law, that's going to initiate travel restrictions too. So wherever you are, that's where you're going to be stuck. And I've said that as part of this Gog-Magog war, that I believe that Iran and possibly North Korea and whoever else hates us, or maybe even the United States government, will explode an electromagnetic pulse weapon above the United States and send us back to the 18th century overnight.
Yeah, and you listeners out there, any of you listeners out there that say, oh, you're just fear-mongering, that ain't gonna, you know what, anything can possibly happen. And you know what, we're gonna call out another, I guess, incident of incompetence when you hear about how they really, I mean, they have every single sign pointing towards the fact that they want Ebola to just do stupid things and spin out of control here in the United States of America. When we come back, Bob, I'm going to play to you what a reporter from CNN said when she came back from Liberia and checked in for her screening coming into the country with the TSA, with the Immigrations and Customs people. Wait till you hear what she has to say about that. These people want this to happen, and we're starting to see evidence of it. We'll be right back. Okay, can these people be this incompetent? Well, yeah, first of all, if you really believe that, then you should also begin preparing to defend yourself, because Katrina victims know full well that the government is not going to come and save you, okay? The level of incompetence that exists right now is truly indicative of my assertion that they want this thing to take us over. Listen to a reporter. Okay, now we know that a cameraman in Liberia contracted Ebola. So you would think, okay, so we'll put together a reactionary force, and just based on stupid things happening, we'll just react to everything that's happening and we'll shore everything up. Listen to this reporter that came back from Liberia. Her name is Elizabeth Cohen, and she's from CNN. Listen to this.
I expected that they were going to take my temperature. They were going to ask me lots of questions, but they didn't. I said, I'm a journalist. I've come back from Liberia. I was covering Ebola. And the gentleman who was helping me, the officer, he started to hand my passport back and say, welcome home. But instead he said, oh, wait a second, I got an email about passengers like you. Hold on a second. And he went and conferred with someone, and he didn't know, and they conferred with someone else. And in the end, he said, you need to watch yourself for signs of Ebola. And I said, well, what am I watching for? And he couldn't tell me. Now, as if that weren't bad enough, Robin, I was traveling with two colleagues, a photojournalist and a producer, and they weren't told anything. And they also said that they were journalists who've been covering Ebola. So we were all kind of shocked and pretty horrified at the lack of screening in U.S. airports. But, you know, as we've been talking about, that may be changing. They may be doing more to screen passengers who are coming in from West Africa.
Okay. I'm going to just put it to you this way. Okay? Dude. What is... Seriously, what is wrong with the problem? Okay? When a reporter says, I'm coming back from Liberia back into the country during an Ebola crisis, and the guy scratches his head and says, I just got an email. He comes back and says, you need to watch out for symptoms of Ebola. And that's what he says. And welcome back to the United States. What is wrong with that picture, sir?
It reminds me of that movie Idiocracy. Yeah. It really does when the doctor says, man, your shit's all retarded. Okay, that's about the extent of their knowledge anymore. But you were talking about Katrina just a minute ago. Mm-hmm. You know, do you remember during Katrina, the cops, right after they took everybody's weapons, they left their posts. When things got really bad, only about 30% of the city's police officers stayed and performed their duties. Mm-hmm. Now, that was just a one-time disaster that was over, well, the really dangerous part was over in a couple of days, and what followed was cleanup. But still, they left their post in order to take care of their families. That's a very human response. Mm-hmm. Now, think about Ebola. This is a crisis that's going to be ongoing. Mm-hmm. It's frightening to think about. The disease itself liquefies your internal organs. You bleed out of your eyes, out of your ears, out of your butt. Okay? Any orifice that you've got, you're going to have blood coming out of it because your internal organs have been liquefied. And this is so scary. I'm here to tell you that cops, ambulance drivers, firemen, most of them are going to leave their posts, and they're also going to be taking care of their families.
It's happening in Liberia, right? Healthcare workers are just abandoning their post, aren't they?
Absolutely. And in order to make sure that he has the expertise that he needs, Obama signed into law on March 16th, 2012, an executive order. It was called Executive Order 13603. And it gives the federal government the legal authority to force any person into de facto slavery. According to this executive order, the president or those he designates can conscript, and I quote, persons of outstanding experience and ability without compensation in peacetime and times of national emergency. In peacetime and times of national emergency.
Right.
Now, in a nutshell, that means that Barack Obama and those he designates, that's another very important phrase, can seize any resource, property, or person at any time for any reason, including forcing that person to labor without being paid. There is only one word for forced uncompensated labor, and that word is slavery. Mm-hmm. Now, just a couple of days ago, another fellow that I listened to, excuse me, he was on the Hagman Report. His name's Steve Quayle. And Steve has got some pretty good contacts himself, and he was talking with a law enforcement officer in Texas who told him that the time has come. And he said that there are doctors in Texas right now that are being forced to work on some aspect of the Ebola crisis.
Are they really? Right now?
They are being forced to. Whether they're being paid or not, I don't know. But if they were an anesthesiologist, they're not an anesthesiologist anymore. Now they're working on Ebola. If they were a microbiologist, well, now they're a microbiologist working for the government. But the point is, their freedom of choice as far as their career path is gone. They now work for the government, whether they want to or not.
I want to emphasize one very important point. There's 2 executive orders, by the way. But the one executive order that we're referring to, ladies and gentlemen, this is not a conspiracy theory. This is not an interpretation of, something in the U.S. Constitution. This is specifically written as follows. Executive Order 13603 states that Americans in the healthy zones will be conscripted for both military duties and civilian work brigades and will not be paid. That's how it's written in 13603. Now, it says under national emergency. Once a national emergency is declared, that executive order kicks in. And that's where essentially slavery will have reemerged inside the United States of America. 13295, passed by George W. Bush in 2003, allows for, listen to this, apprehension, detention, or conditional release of individuals to prevent the introduction, transmission, or spread of suspected communicable diseases. Okay? Martial law and NDAA and all of that fearful stuff we've been talking about is actually law in place.
It actually is. And, people don't read these executive orders. Apparently, nobody at the networks read them either. But I read them, and what I read in them is absolutely frightening. With a stroke of his pen, with one phone call from his phone, Obama can actually destroy the republic that used to be the United States of America. And overnight, he will become a dictator.
If you look at
already, according to John Adams.
Yeah, if you look at their incompetence, okay, and their negligence and their inability to manage this crisis as small as it is right now, okay, manage this crisis appropriately. For all of you Ebola crisis deniers, okay, you need to shut your cake hole and realize that the Ebola crisis, as small as it is a much bigger thing when you factor in our incompetence in handling it, okay? It's obvious to me that they want this national emergency to emerge. Why? Because Barack Obama, through the Ebola crisis, has his executive orders he wants to kick in with the stroke of a pen. We'll be back with Bobby Powell right after this. Okay, I'm with Bobby Powell. And if you don't know who Bobby Powell is, and you're a regular listener of GMN, actually, that's impossible. If you're a regular listener of GMN and the Pete Santilli Show, you know who Bobby Powell is. Bobby, welcome back. Let me ask you this. If you were faced with the choice of jail or immunization, what would you do?
Well, I've always got another option.
Okay, let's hear it. Let's hear it and offer it up to our listeners.
Bug out. I'm not going to jail, and I'm not taking an Ebola immunization either, because I'm here to tell you that Ebola immunization, that's going to be bad news. Do you remember that movie with what was his name? The black guy, Will Smith. They came up with an immunization for cancer, and all of a sudden everybody turns into walking zombie vampires. It's ridiculous. But the predictive programming that has come across our airwaves in the last couple of years has been insane. World War Z, zombies everywhere. The Department of Homeland Security is hiring actors to dress up like zombies, and they're having police departments shoot at these zombies. Why? Okay, well, think about that for a second. You've got Ebola, you've got sick people with blood coming out of every orifice, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
zombified.
If you ever seen a picture of somebody that's got Ebola, well, that's a passable imitation for a zombie. Okay, so they're getting the police and whatnot desensitized to the idea of shooting American citizens. But we don't have to worry about the government so much as we do these radical Islamists, because they are coming to get us. You know, Barack Obama, since he's taken office, has totally dismissed every terrorist attack in the United States, calling it workplace violence, right? In 2009, the Little Rock recruiting office, one soldier was killed and another was wounded, and another in 2009 in November, Major Nadal Hassan fatally shot 13 people and injured more than 30 others. Workplace violence, right? Well, a non-Islamic studies professor was stabbed to death by a Muslim grad student in revenge for persecuting Muslims in December. And in April of 2011, right not too far away from me in Warren, Michigan, a 20-year-old woman was shot in the head by her stepfather for not being Muslim enough. 2011, three Jewish men had their throats slashed by Muslim terrorists. 2013, a 30-year-old Christian convert was shot to death by a devout Muslim. 2013, again, Muslims target and behead 2 Coptic Christian immigrants in New Jersey. Ashtabula, Ohio, a Muslim walks into a Christian church service and guns down his Christian father while he's praising Allah. The Tsarnaev brothers detonate 2 bombs at the Boston City Marathon. Okay, well, it wasn't workplace violence, but Obama won't call it Islamic terrorism either.
Oh, no, hold on a second. And you have to factor in this. Did you know that Obama sent the Islamic Society of Greater Oklahoma City a personal, hand-delivered message as follows, quote, "Your service is a powerful example of the powerful roots of the Abrahamic faiths and how our communities can come together with shared peace, with dignity, and a sense of justice." He sent a personal note to the freaking mosque where the Oklahoma beheader frequented.
It sure would have been nice if he had sent a personal note to Mr. and Mrs. Strange, or if he had sent a personal note to one of the 4 Americans that were killed in Benghazi. But the only time that Obama shows any emotion is when it's one of his people that are, you know, in the crosshairs. You know, in Ferguson or Trayvon Martin, could have been his son, right? Well, you know, that's the only time that Obama cares, if they're black or Muslim.
Obama cares, pun intended. Go ahead.
If you're white or Christian, Obama does not give one lick about you. As a matter of fact, he probably wants you dead.
Yeah. And I wonder how many personal notes he sent to Jill Tamarisi.
That is really making me angry, brother. That really is.
Yeah. You know what? Before we conclude our segment, we'll talk about Sergeant Tamarisi. But anyways, back to our point. It is evident. It is clear, sir. Let's get us back on track with the following. Especially, and I want you to comment to those people that have literally been pummeling me, saying that I'm fear-mongering, okay? I'm calling them Ebola crisis deniers, all right? It is clear and evident, okay, that the CDC, okay, that the NIH and Bill Gates own the patents to the virus, the vaccination, and the virus itself. They have a conflict of interest in resolving any potential Ebola crisis. That is a dangerous thing in and of itself, is it not? They want this thing to spin out of control because they're going to make billions of dollars if it does.
Yeah, sure they will. But, you know, that doesn't make any sense to me. Because if they destroy the world, what good is that money going to do them?
Well, you know, if you go by what Bill Gates says, that we need to depopulate, that's a great way to wipe out tens of millions of people, isn't it?
Well, yeah, and that would fall in line with the Agenda 21 that's engraved on the Georgia Guidestones. Somebody here recently put up a stone, a carved stone that fit right into a spot where it should have gone, that had dates on it, and one of those dates was 2014. So I don't know whether that was a hoax or not. The maintenance guy.
What do you say, Bob? Bob, what do you say to the people? And I'll tell you, it's probably split 50-50. For those people that have come after, that would come after us to say you're fear-mongering about the Ebola crisis, and it's not a big deal. More people die from the flu than die from the Ebola virus. What do you say to those people that say, oh, you're doing nothing but fear-mongering and making it's a big to-do about nothing?
Well, I would have to say that they're just wrong. They're closing their eyes to the evil that we're facing. I mean, these people are evil. Just think about a plan to depopulate the world to leave only 500 million people. You really want to kill 6.5 billion people? Can you just wrap your head around how damn evil that is? Okay, these people that we're fighting, they are Luciferian to the very core. They don't care about anybody except their master Satan, and he's lying to them too. Okay,
we have all of these mechanisms set up to handle a terrorist event. We have all these mechanisms set up to handle a national emergency. We have all these executive orders. We have these companies that own the vaccines, of the Ebola virus. They own the Ebola virus itself. We've got everything set up and an infrastructure set up for killing 6.5 billion people. What is set up to actually free 6.5 billion people? I would say that right now in the United States of America, we have an emergency. It's called a constitutional emergency. What mechanisms are in place to make sure that we're all free people and that we're not screwed with by a tyrannical government and a bunch of Luciferian freaking eugenicists?
Well, the Second Amendment, for one. And there's another part of that, too. These people that we're fighting, they don't care about dying. These radical Islamists that are going to be attacking us, they want to die, Pete. They want to be killed so that they can go to their version of paradise and get it on with 72 virgins. Well, I got news for them. I'm going to deny them that. And a lot of my viewers are going to deny them that because I've got a brand new weapon in the fight against radical Islamic terrorism. It's called Silver Bullet Gun Oil. These guys are a new sponsor with The Truth is Viral. It's made out of 13% pig fat. And, during the Moro Rebellion in the Philippines in 1902, Army General Black Jack Pershing rounded up 50 Muslim terrorists and slaughtered a couple of pigs in front of them. And the firing squad soaked their bullets in the blood and fat prior to loading their weapons. 49 of these terrorists were shot. Their bodies were tossed into a mass grave with the residual pig carcasses and guts piled high on top. And the 50th terrorist was sent to tell his buddies exactly what he'd just witnessed. Now, for 42 years, there was not a single Muslim terrorist attack anywhere in the entire world.
Really?
Yes, brother, that's true. Since 2004, this Silver Bullet Gun Oil has been used by Marine Infantry, Marine Recon, Scout Snipers, Navy SEALs, regular Army Rangers, Green Berets, Reserve Unit, and National Guard. M1 Abrams platoons, Apache and Cobra gunships use them in their miniguns. I can't even begin to imagine how many of Allah's holy warriors have been greatly disappointed upon realizing that they did not pass go and they will not collect 72 virgins.
That's what I'm talking about. That's a great deterrent. So forget about telling ISIS to bring it. We're going to tell them that we're going to wave Porky Pig in their face right before we take them out.
And we will send you straight to hell.
That's what I'm freaking talking about.
If they want to start a war of terror, let's start a war of terror. Actually, let's conclude it. If they want to fight us, then we need to fight them harder. If they want to cause carnage, we need to cause greater carnage. If they want to provide terror to us, then we need to provide so much terror to them that they are going to be talking about it. The survivors will be talking about it around Middle Eastern campfires for the next 10,000 years.
You got me freaking fired up. How do I get a hold of this Silver Bullet pig oil? I want to sell some of that stuff.
You can go to silverbulletgunoil.net, or you can go to the Truth is Viral Facebook page. I'm having a contest right now, actually. If folks want to upload a 1-minute video telling me why they would like to have some Silver Bullet Gun Oil, I'm going to send them some free Silver Bullet Gun Oil along with a brand new Truth is Viral t-shirt and an ISIS.
That is freaking masterful, dude. You just turned me around big time. Hey, listen, if you want to stay with me through Susanna and I through the Bunker News Break, you're welcome to do that. You want to stay or do you need to go?
Are you kidding? I love you guys.
Yeah, stay with us. Susanna, Cole, and I, after the top of the hour news break, we'll be back with the Bunker News Break. Oh, Silver Bullet Gun Oil. I'm re-energized, ladies and gentlemen. Forget about the left-right paradigm. Let's just tell them, you want to bring it? We got Porky Pig waiting for you at a veteran's house near you. So Bring it, ISIS. Let's go, baby. We're having bacon for breakfast. Woohoo!
Terrorists who are religious fanatics have a significant advantage because to die for their religion is to go straight to heaven. So threats are impotent where dying holds no dread. But an American military man acquainted with both the Middle East and the Far East has an idea that just might work. William George Myers was judge advocate for our logistical command in Lebanon, also a veteran of duty in China, and he remembers an uprising in India in the 40s when Muslim mutineers prostrated themselves on the railroad tracks in such numbers that they defied military intervention, but the rails then were greased with hog fat, and those demonstrators fled and they never came back. An understanding of superstitions, cultures, and customs is essential to the development of countermeasures, and if Muslim holy places were to be sprayed with pork fat, the Muslim terrorist is immediately in a state of non-grace. He cannot go to heaven until he's purified, and he would thus be deterred from any act which might result in self-destruction pending re-sanctification.
Whether we like it or not, radical Islamists are bringing the fight to us right here in the United States, and it's obvious that the Obama administration isn't going to lift a finger to protect us. As Americans, we have the right and the duty to protect our friends and our family from Islamic terrorism. ISIS needs to understand that just because Barack Obama is a limp-wristed coward, that doesn't mean that the American patriot is. We don't negotiate with terrorists like Barack Obama does. We just kill them. Real Americans, the young, the old, men, women, even the Amish, stand ready to protect the American homeland from Islamic terrorism. And more, they're turning to the most terrifying force multiplier that the world has ever seen. It's called silver bullet gun oil. This is made from 13% pig fat, and it is guaranteed to send an Islamic terrorist straight to hell. Islamic terrorists don't care about dying, folks. In fact, they welcome the idea. So we have to take that incentive away from them by guaranteeing them an afterlife in hell. Silver bullet gun oil is an effective psychological weapon against Islamic terrorism in the United States. In order to get your bottle, just click the link below in the video description or go to silverbulletgunoil.net and enter the code TTIV and you'll get some goodies. Speaking of goodies, I'm going to be giving away a goodie bag with silver bullet gun oil and a Truth is Viral t-shirt. The first goodie bag is going to go to the person that uploads the funniest video telling me why you want silver bullet gun oil for your personal weapon. So, keep the video under a minute, and I really can't wait to see what you guys come up with. Please bring the funny. No reason why we can't have some fun with this.
As we come back, I want to make sure that I get this out of the way and encourage each and every one of our listeners, if you want to support Guerrilla Media Network and stay really closely connected to us, our thinking, our inside perspective, especially Susanna Cole, that she will just keep everything secret. She won't give away her best thoughts and ideas on the show. She's going to document those on the GMN rant. So if you want some insight as to her line of thinking and her perspective, she's actually writing articles on the GMN Rent. It's a weekly subscription, and it's $5 per month, and you receive it automatically every single Monday. Susanna, I'm not picking on you. I was just kind of throwing you out there. But the GMN Rent, subscribe. Under the bus. Subscribe now. What's the website where somebody can actually subscribe to the GMN Rant?
Guerrilla Media Network /rant.
GuerrillaMediaNetwork.com/rant. There you go.
Yes. Well,
$5 a month. They get lots of goodies, lots of stuff.
.com is kind of a given. Sorry, guys, but yeah.
Well, yeah, not necessarily. There's .nets and .us's and all the .info and all those other things. But yeah, hey, listen. But before we transition here, we have Pig-Eyed Mule on the line. Daniel from Quebec just dropped off. I went to click on him, but before we do that, let me remind everyone. Okay, the Oklahoma beheading suspect, okay, attended a mosque. And Obama thought that it was important enough to send that mosque a hand-delivered message directly from the president, okay? But mosques get the attention of the President of the United States. So when we conspiracy theorists talk about his Muslim Brotherhood connections, okay, we talk about his loyalty to helping, especially the radical Islamists that he's helping right now through his incompetence. When we talk about that, and then we compare that with his actions, okay, it makes that conspiracy theory a little bit more shored up, doesn't it, Susanna? Are you disgusted by the President of the United States sending a hand-delivered personal message from the Obama administration, from the president himself, to that mosque?
Do we know what the message said?
Yeah, your service is a powerful example of the powerful roots of the Abrahamic faiths and how our communities can come together with shared peace, with dignity, and a sense of justice, Obama said. Okay, so if you're a black person, you get Eric Holder and Barack Obama cheering you on in Ferguson. But if you're a white guy and you're a Marine and you're a decorated Marine with PTSD and you're in a New Mexico prison, you don't even get fries with that.
Yeah.
Do you?
Now, listen, I think really at this point that's, that he would even dare something like that is very, it's just not good for the morale of the American people. Do you know what I mean? It's like, golly, we feel like you're asking us to fight this on one hand, and then on the other side, you're telling us to embrace it, and so I think people are just really confused all the way across the board.
Listen, Bobby's with us, and Bobby, anytime you want to jump in and comment on anything we're talking about, just jump in there, dude. Seriously.
I was just going to tell Susanna that's exactly what he wants, sweetie.
Yes.
He wants us demoralized. He wants us not knowing which way to turn, not knowing which way is up. Because if you've got a confused enemy, just ask Sun Tzu. That's the best way to keep him.
Yeah, order out of chaos, right?
Can we formally declare him, based on his actions, a domestic enemy?
Absolutely.
I think we can, almost legally.
Madison,
right?
James Madison, writing as Publius in the Federalist Papers, said that when a person, or when all the powers of the executive, legislative, and judicial are in the powers of one man, that is the very definition of tyranny. Now, Anwar al-Awlaki was a scumbag. Okay, he preached jihad. He wanted to attack this nation. But Anwar al-Awlaki was an American scumbag. He was not even charged with a crime before Obama signed his warrant and killed him with a drone. And he killed his 16-year-old son 2 weeks after al-Awlaki was killed, too. He didn't want the boy coming back after him later. But that little boy had never done anything to anybody. As a matter of fact, in that series of incidents, Barack Obama murdered 3 American citizens without ever charging them with any type of a crime in a court of law. I had Nate Wessler from the ACLU's National Security Project on my show last year, and he called Barack Obama a murderer. Said he was the judge, jury, and executioner. Now, when you've got the ultra-liberal ACLU and liberal professors like Jonathan Turley telling us that we've got a constitutional crisis, we've got a criminal in the Oval Office, brother, I'm here to tell you, we are in trouble. When the liberals recognize that, when Bill Maher recognizes that Barack Obama is way out in left field, okay, we're in trouble. We're only going to have ourselves to depend on.
You heard, Susanna, you heard about Bill Maher wanting to come right out and go after those radical Islamists. Bill Maher wanting to do that.
And, we picked up, just to give ourselves a little credit here, we picked up on that days before mainstream media picked up on it, and we're talking about it. Now they were all talking about it yesterday, about Bill Maher. But, you also have to remember someone like Bill Maher, he hates all religion, across the board. It's not just, it's not just Islam. He holds Christians just as accountable for, atrocities that they commit in the name of God as he does Islam, the Jews, all of them. I mean, I've heard him speak on that, but he is a flaming liberal. Make no mistake about it. He's all about Agenda 21 and this new economic world order or global governance that he thinks we absolutely need for the planet to survive. So, you know, he has his downfalls too. But on this subject, I have to say he's absolutely right. And I really enjoyed listening to him go up against a real retard, Ben Affleck.
Yeah, Batman. He needs.
Did you hear this? Susanna, should we play this?
Yeah.
I think we should hear. Let me. Okay, it has been removed. Sorry about that. I'll find another copy of it. But Ben Affleck was actually getting praised. But here it is. Let's see. Let me find another copy of it. It's pretty awesome. And while we do, let me go to Pig-Eyed Mule while I find a copy of that thing. Pig-Eyed Mule, you there? Pig-Eyed Mule, what's your comment?
You know, if this guy that's in office is illegally put into office, supported by people that should be in prison, and someday they will all be tried. The ones that we cannot let escape from that trial.
Dude, hold on a second. Who are they going to be tried by? You know what? I'm going to have to say to you, I got it. We don't have anybody that's willing to do anything. We can't even get a Marine out of a prison.
You got to go to a Continental Congress where these people are picked in advance, like Pastor Manning, who sits there and say, "You're going to be Judge Robert Scott, and we're going to find people like him that are willing to try these people for the crimes they've committed."
Who's going to demand that, though? We're going to have to get a bunch of people from Hong Kong to come in and take over our country so we can get crap done, because the Americans are going to sit there and let a Marine rot in prison for 190 days, you know? Who's going to do this?
You'll find the people. They'll show up. Pastor Manning is a perfect one. He's the only guy that tried Obama and found him guilty of crime.
And we like Pastor Manning.
I love Pastor Manning. Yeah, absolutely.
And he knows there's people like that. There's people that are too afraid to come out of the shadows because of the repercussions that's going to happen to them. Because these guys control the IRS, they control the cops, they can, you know, when the shit hits the fan and the stuff goes upside down, there's going to be a lot more people that appear that are just kind of hanging out. They're locking and loaded, but they're not. You know, my dad and my brother both had to be kicked out of the airplane when they were parachuting into dangerous places because they just couldn't do it. So their drill instructors threw them out the door. And that's what's going to happen. You know, people are going to be thrown into service. You know, they asked Patton one time, well, how are courageous people found? They're not. They just appear that the environment is right for people. And it will happen. But I do not want to forget that the media has been completely culpable of all of this. No. I've only seen one or two people in local places that have said, F it, I'm out of here. I'm not putting up with this shit anymore.
Yeah,
we got Matt Lauers and the Katie Courics and the, you know, all these type of people that have allowed this to happen.
Yeah, I'm calling upon more people to jump over the front fence at the White House that are willing to do so. What? Don't do that? What?
The next guy's going to get shot. Pete.
What? Huh?
I think the next guy's going to get shot.
I don't think so. I don't think so. The Secret Service is in charge. No one's going to get shot. They're going to use restraint and let the guy run into Obama's kitchen, open up his fridge, and drink a beer before anyone gets shot, okay? The Secret Service is in charge.
Old English 800.
And by the way, if the Secret Service is listening to me, I find it remarkable how you come banging on my door within 24 hours of me making a comment about Hillary Clinton, but it takes you, you still haven't done anything about people jumping over the front fence. Why is it that the Secret Service is very efficient going after people like me, but they can't handle somebody running into the White House? It's just absolutely remarkable to me.
Live from the Overthrow Bunker and FEMA Region 9, you're listening to The Pete Santilli Show.
I'm so upset. I'm so upset right now, okay? Because I'm literally right now mentioned, they all but spelled me out, okay? And Bobby Powell and Susanna Cole without even mentioning our names, all right? In a defense intelligence assessment put out by Homeland Security. Okay?
Oh, this is insane.
Are you reading that thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Wow.
I have not. I'm scanning through this thing. Okay. I downloaded a copy of the report. But let me read you this article here. Examiner contributor David Condrea revealed yesterday that the Department of Homeland Security has issued a new intelligence assessment report that lumps Nevada cattle rancher in with the likes of the Alaska Peacemakers militia, the Fear Anarchist militia, and LAX shooter Paul Anthony Ciancia. Yet the same report fails to make a single mention of domestic jihadis like Nidal Malik Hassan, Rashad Riddle, Yusuf Ibrahim, Ali Mohammed Brown, to name just a few. The unclassified for official use only document prepared by the Office of Intelligence and Analysis and the Southern Nevada Counterterrorism Unit. Here, hold on a second. I got to do something here. Stand by. I don't know if you're reading that report, Susanna, but here's what it says. Recounts some high-profile cases involving groups of individuals and warns of the dangers of lone offender extremists. It is an update of a report released in July that was posted by Public Intelligence, focused heavily on the standoff with the Bureau of Land Management at the Bundy Ranch and on Las Vegas cop killers Jared and Amanda Miller. The report continues with a well-documented tradition of conflating those who believe in the right to keep and bear arms with enemies of a constitutional government of limited and defined powers. So if you recall the Bundy Ranch incident, which I was not only directly involved in, but I'm going to say this, federal government, check this out. Here's my big middle finger to you, homies. We freaking kicked your ass with people power, constitutionality, and with peaceful activation of the Second Amendment right to defend, to keep, bear arms, and defend ourselves from tyranny, and we kicked your ass. And if there's any federal law enforcement official, any local law enforcement official that opposes that, then you're just brainwashed. You're brainwashed by this DHS report. Okay? 1,000-strong coalition of armed militiamen, cowboys on horseback, gun rights activists, and others. Okay? Yes. I'm going to throw myself into others.
We're others there, Pete.
Yeah, we're others.
Yeah, there were others there. Yeah.
Rallying to Cliven Bundy's ranch in an attempt to protect him from the Federal Bureau of Land Management. While the whole situation was quite unfortunate and convoluted, as this reporter says, the point still remains that not a single shot was fired and the situation ended peacefully. What this intelligence assessment report therefore insinuates is that President Barack Obama's over-cumbersome federal government thinks that benign ranchers like Cliven Bundy pose a greater threat to us than the increasing number of extraordinary violent domestic jihadis, many connected to ISIS, who keep popping up across the United States. The new revelation comes alongside another one by Examiner contributor Anthony Martin, who alleges that the Obama administration plans to initiate a massive crackdown on the liberties of citizens immediately after the midterm elections.
Yeah, that is coming. Listen to this. Go ahead.
This purge would be in the form of prosecution through the courts. The objective would be to silence the voices of Christians, Tea Party participants, and those who support the Constitution and oppose Obama and his progressive agenda, and remove them from society by tossing them into prison, where they should spend years and a ton of money attempting to get out of jail and defend their reputations. Okay. Note that the second revelation happens to be extraordinary, circumstantial, and speculative. However, given the Obama administration's previous attacks on conservatives, not to mention the president's appeasement towards Muslims, we've already clearly demonstrated an appeasement towards Muslims. We see his actions clearly identifying him, Barack Obama, the person, not the president. The president of the United States is not a domestic enemy of the United States of America constitutionally. But that man that occupies That office deserves to have many more than just one person going over that front fence to go drink his beers. Okay? We need hundreds, if not thousands of people going over that front fence and have the United States Marines and the Secret Service arrest that bastard for committing treason against the United States of America. All right? Now, when we come to rise up, all right, this is what he says is a perceived victory at Bunkerville, likely to prompt more violence. No, we weren't violent. You'll notice at Bundy Ranch, were we violent, Bobby Powell?
Absolutely not.
Did we prove that we were not violent? Did one person fire a shot?
No. I think if there had been any violent intentions, that those violent intentions would have been felt immediately, and the repercussions would have been widespread and long-lasting.
That's right.
But
you'll notice we didn't bomb the opposition into submission.
No.
Right?
No, we didn't. And we didn't threaten them.
No.
We didn't do any of the good things that Muslims like to do. We didn't riot like they did in Ferguson and other places. What we did was we stood up and just exercised our Second Amendment and First Amendment rights. And we did it peacefully. And they don't like it because we won.
If you're in law enforcement, you're in the Secret Service, you're a first responder, I don't care where you are. If you're on the federal government payroll, you need to snap the F out of it. Okay?
Pete, I'm sorry to interrupt you. You sounded like you're about to get on a roll, but I just had to say something. It's just coming out of me right now.
Yeah.
I want to speak to all the federal agents that are listening to this program right now.
Please do.
The American patriot is not your enemy.
No.
Okay? You swore the same oath that we swore to protect this nation against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Yep.
There is an enemy right now in the White House.
Yes.
And there are enemies that are coming to get us in the form of Islamic terrorists. Mm-hmm. And you guys, we depend on you to stand between us and them.
Yep.
Because you have the badge. You have the legal authority. Okay, when it comes to us, when it comes down to us, it's going to be life and death. But you can intervene right now. You can arrest these radical Muslim preachers. There are 22 jihadist training camps inside the United States right now, and they're being left alone. Why? The President of the United States is giving money to al-Qaeda terrorists. Why? Mm-hmm. He gave $900 million to Hamas, an entity that is listed by the United States State Department as a terrorist entity. People from the Holy Land Foundation went to jail for a felony charge for doing the exact same thing. Yeah. So why is Barack Obama allowed to get away with it?
Yeah.
Why does Barack Obama get to lie to the entire country and the entire world when he took us into NATO?
Bob, let's take this last break. Let's continue the discussion. Okay, I want to read this one particular paragraph, this excerpt, and we want you, okay, in law enforcement. First of all, you're not going to stick me in a prison. I guarantee you that, okay? And I'm not a lone gunman or a violent extremist. I'm going to say this. I'm a truth teller. Your commander-in-chief right now is sending messages to Muslim mosques after beheadings. You claim to be fighting terrorism. You're actually supporting it by supporting Barack Obama. We'll be back right after this message. All right, let me read this. This is okay if you're in law enforcement, which I know you're listening. You guys are surveilling me and are trying to fight terrorism. You say you're trying to fight terrorism. I'm not a terrorist. Okay, I'm a United States Marine, and I'll kick your ass if you mess with me. Take my stuff and try to violate the constitutional rights of anyone around me. I'm more constitutional and lawful than you are. You freaking brainwashed puke. If you believe this paragraph that's written in your report, okay? This is the report to you. Perceived victory at Bunkerville likely to prompt more violence. First of all, we weren't violent, okay? I personally witnessed, and if you were smart enough to go in and take a look at evidence rather than the crap that's being spoon-fed to you. I stood there when the federal government threw a 50-plus-year-old cancer patient to the ground, a woman, Aunt Margaret, unarmed, threw her to the ground, tased the crap out of Ammon Bundy, okay? And we were there trying to do what? To enforce the law and call for an investigation to find out what the BLM was doing with backhoes, with dump trucks, killing cattle, and violating the law in violation of their own court order that said that they were justified in doing so. We actually went there to try to get the sheriff's department to come out and investigate. What they did in response, the federal government tased, threw people to the ground, and pointed AR-15s at us. I actually recorded that. That prompted the Bundy Ranch standoff because the people around the country came together and said, you're not going to do this. We're going to defend ourselves, and we're willing to put our lives on the line to defend our rights. You release that cattle, you stop screwing with us, and if you mess with us, we won't fire one shot unless fired upon, but you point a weapon at us, it will be a bloody massacre and you will lose. You are outnumbered, you are outgunned, and you are outwilled, okay? That's not prompting more violence, okay? That's prompting more energy against you. It will be an overwhelming force against you. This assessment report assesses that the perception among militia extremists, if you believe that based on what I just said, you think that that's extremist, then you are a brainwashee. You are skull-fucked by a government that you consider it to be extreme. A government that is being run by a tyrannical force. It is our government that has been hijacked, and you're participating in supporting it. Okay? Extremists. That their threats and show off between tyranny and oppression and freedom, who stood with us in opposition to a federal government that was prepared to kill us all. And you think that that's extreme to stand up in defense against that? You think that we're extremists? Really? You think that you only have militia extremists? No, you have Americans, red-blooded, patriotic Americans that will come in droves in opposition to this. It says particularly militia extremists and violent lone offenders to actively confront law enforcement officials, increasing the likelihood of violence. You know where the likelihood of violence is increasing? Is if law enforcement doesn't take and heed my words. You are either constitutional, lawful, and in favor of everything that our country was founded on by our framers, and the laws that are in place right now, the U.S. Constitution, and you better freaking get it right and stop going to your little constitutional classes that skip over like the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the First Amendment, and all those things. You've been misinformed. If you want to oppose us, you will die in a bloody battle, okay, that could have ensued at Bundy Ranch. But thankfully, guess what? We so-called extremists that you want to call us, were tempered. We're disciplined. And when we say that we will not fire a shot unless fired upon, we proved it. That's not extreme. That's exactly what we believe in. We have more discipline. We have more resolve. We have more patriotism. And we have much more of a desire to go after the true enemies, our domestic enemies, than even some of you in law enforcement. You better snap the F out of it. Okay.
Well, Pete, you know, you're kind of shortchanging us just a little bit. You mentioned Sheriff Richard Mack, but you didn't mention that he's the head of the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. He was there at the Bundy Ranch representing over 500 county sheriffs from around this nation.
That's right.
Right.
The American patriot is not alone. Not by a long shot.
No.
Not only do we have county sheriffs and local law enforcement in our corner, you know, when the crap hits the fan, you see these videos on YouTube, the cops beating the crap out of people. But, you know, you got to understand that out of the tens of thousands of times every single day that people are stopped by police, that doesn't happen. People get their ticket, they move on. Okay, that's a very rare instance when cops act like real douchebags like that. But most of them are are just like us, Pete. They love their families. They want to do what's right. They want to do the right thing, and I'm hearing it from them all the time. My local sheriffs and local police officers up here in northern Michigan, I've only spoken with one, and he was a state trooper that agrees with what is going on in Washington, D.C. The National Defense Authorization Act, where the federal government can just come in and order the Army to arrest any person without a charge and hold them indefinitely. Every single one of our local representatives and state senators voted against that. And Governor Snyder signed that bill into law, making it a felony for any federal officer to come into the great state of Michigan and try to arrest a citizen without a warrant that's been properly signed by a judge. So the people are standing up. And I'm telling you, there are even people inside the federal government that know exactly what's going on. And when the time comes, they're going to be standing with us. The people that are actually going to be oppressing the American people are very human. And that is why Obama has been having the Chinese and the Russians coming over here to train in order to suppress the American patriot. Because he cannot count on his own Department of Homeland Security, because, damn it, they're Americans too, Pete.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're not going to let this country fall to a tyranny. And they see it. They're not all stupid. You know, some of them are cowards. All they want is to just keep their paycheck rolling in and hope that they don't get into trouble. You know, they're just short timers, just doing what they have to do. But others are in the place where they want to be, and they're going to stay there. When Obama says, when he administers his litmus test, will you fire on American citizens? I'm here to tell you that there are officers in the military and the federal government that are lying. And they're saying, yes, we will fire on American citizens. And then when that order actually comes, they're going to turn around and put a bullet right through the brain of the man that gave them that order.
Yeah. You know, yes. And you know, in the essence of time here, I need to point out a couple things. You know what's rather unfortunate? You in law enforcement, listen to this. If you're in the Secret Service, the FBI, I don't care where you're at, okay? If you're too stupid to really take a look at what's going on the other side of, let's say, the Bundy Ranch story, and you just want to read this little excerpt that was put in front of you by a tyrannical group of individuals running our government, okay? We're not anti-government. You need to understand that. Pick up the phone and call me, and I'll tell you what I'm anti. But they speak of the Las Vegas shooters were present at the Bunkerville standoff. You know what they failed to tell you in law enforcement in this report? That those people and anyone, okay, and I know this personally and firsthand, I was literally involved, and Bobby, I think I may have mentioned this to you, in helping to self-police, making sure that anyone with a long rifle was not in a offensive stance in any way, shape, or form leading up to the standoff on Saturday. We were spending days coaching people. Your muzzle's down. Your long rifle is across your back. We are not offensive. We are here for defensive purposes to defend the peaceful protesters. Anybody who is armed constitutionally and lawfully has a right to do that, but we are not here for violence. We're here for peace, and we're here to assert our constitutional rights. And these Las Vegas shooters, were asking for weapons, okay? They were not legally allowed to have them, and they were too radical for what we intended to do. They were literally kicked off of Bundy Ranch. These are Las Vegas shooters that were referred to being present at the standoff, who were we were self-policed, and they were kicked off of Bundy Ranch because they were radical. They were violent extremists that, guess what, acted out on that violent extremism. But it shouldn't be anchored to what the Bundy Ranch standoff was all about. Law enforcement needs to be standing up for those peaceful protesters. Law enforcement on the federal side needs to be standing down when you're told to point your muzzle at a bunch of unarmed peaceful protesters demanding cattle back and to free up land and to stop abusing people. So you have been told that we are violent extremists, okay? And I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, I'm not. I'm not going to be defensive. I'm going to tell you, if you think that we, the people, that are going to stand up for the U.S. Constitution, We're not going to fire unless fired upon. But if you do not understand what we're all about, then you're probably going to die in this battle. You're going to die, okay, against a whole bunch of people who are prepared to give their lives to defend our God-given rights. That's what Bundy Ranch is about. You know what you need to start doing? You need to start recognizing that your commander-in-chief is sending friendly letters to mosques where a violent extremist went there and was taught by his Quran doctrine to chop off the heads of the infidels. You're supporting, by not denouncing, President Barack Obama. You're supporting one of our domestic enemies of the U.S. Constitution. You need to start making some choices, because it's not Pete Santilli that you need to worry about. The words that I'm speaking of right now are in the hearts and minds of tens of millions of people, 150 million of them, that are well-armed, waiting silently. You make a wrong move and you fire at us, oh my goodness. God bless you and your families for you being such an idiot. Enjoy that pay while it lasts.
Thank you for watching The Truth is Viral with your host, Bobby Powell. Make sure to follow The Apocalypse on Twitter at The Truth is Viral. Like The Truth is Viral on Facebook, and if you can, please remember to donate to the cause via PayPal at www.bobpowell.blogspot.com.
Smack, runner.